Okay, let us start with fallopian tube. So fallopian tube, these are also called as oviducts or uterine tubes. Okay, they are two in number. So pair of ducts which are conveying ova from the ovary to the uterus, isn't it? So where are they lying? They are lying in the medial 3/4 of the upper margin of broad ligament. Okay, then they blend medially with this cornu, this horn of the uterus. This is the medial, and laterally they are free. And we know it is bending backwards towards the ovary. Okay, this is the lateral end and this is the medial end. Medial end is towards the carno and lateral end is free and it is bending over the ovary. Okay, and we know it has a lumen. Okay, so which is communicating the uterine and the peritoneal cavities. If you remember, I told you in the females peritoneal cavity is open, whereas in males peritoneal cavity is a closed sac. Okay, that means this peritoneal cavity, whatever empty space we have in the abdomen, it is actually in communication with the uterine tube, because the uterine tube has holes inside these finger-like projections which are fimbriae. Fimbriae will have ostia. What is the purpose of these openings? The ovum which is released from the
Collection
ovary,
of ovum.
collection of ovum, and which is going into the ampulla of fallopian tube for the purpose of fertilization. Okay. Now coming to the fallopian tube, where does it lie? It lies in the lesser pelvis, that is below the pelvic rim. Okay, by the side of the uterus and in the broad ligament. Now coming with the length, it is measuring around 10 centimeters or 4 inches. Now the direction of the fallopian tube is how is it moving? Laterally, backwards and upwards. Okay, and then you will see laterally, backwards, upwards, and then again it is coming down like this. Okay, so laterally, backwards, okay, laterally, upwards, backwards, and downwards. Okay, so that is laterally, it is starting from the angle of uterine end of the ovary and upwards along the mesovarian border of the ovary, backwards along the tubal end of the ovary, and downwards to come to posterior border of medial side of the ovary. This you will understand when you see in the dissection orbiter. Just for now, you just try to remember. Okay, laterally, backwards, upwards, and then downwards. Okay, this is the angulation. It comes like this. Okay. Now this is the real picture you are finding. So this is the uterus, okay, and then you are finding this whole whitish, pinkish, loaded with fat is broad ligament, okay. This is the round ligament of the uterus. Do you remember? It is moving through the inguinal canal, going to the labia majora, okay. And oh, sorry, but I told in reverse direction. This is uterus, okay, and this is like uterine tube.
No.
Okay, original. That means this is the fallopian tube. You can see nicely fallopian tube. Okay, and this is the round ligament which moves towards the labia majora. Okay, and this whole thing is broad ligament. Okay, so this is the fundus of the uterus. Okay, this is the fallopian tube, and this is the round ligament. And if you see this curvature, it is moving like this, and this is our ovarian fossa. Can you see ovaries lying here? Okay, just move it. Okay, this is ovary. Okay, and this last end will be that means fallopian tube is all like this. Okay, from here to here. But now the presenting parts are, it has two openings. Okay, openings are nothing but ostia. One opening is towards the uterine cavity and the other opening is through the fimbriae, that is the ostia. So that means it is communicating with the uterine cavity and it is also communicating with the peritoneal cavity. Okay, so those are the, see, this is the uterine ostium and these are the abdominal ostium. Okay, the two openings. So this uterine opening, this one is uterine opening. The dimensions are, it is 1 mm in diameter. It is communicating the uterine tubes into the uterine cavity. Then this is the pelvic or the abdominal opening. It is comparatively wider, isn't it? So 3 mm. So This is seen at the lateral end of the uterine tube. Okay. So at the bottom of the infundibulum. Okay. I will tell you the parts of fallopian tube as we proceed. So it is piercing the posterior layer of the broad ligament and it is communicating with peritoneal cavity. So peritoneal cavity in females is an open sac because of this opening. Okay, that is the abdominal opening of the fallopian tube. Okay, so what are these finger-like projections it has?
Fimbria.
Fimbria. Okay. Now let us see what are the various parts of the fallopian tube. So it has how many parts? You see 4 parts. Okay. The first part you have like within the uterine cavity it starts. That is the intramural. Okay, or pars uterine tube. After that, you will have this connecting portion will be isthmus. Then you will have bulged area will be ampulla, then infundibulum, then finger-like projections are fimbria. Okay. Intramural part is this isthmus, ampulla, infundibulum, and fimbria. So intramural part is nothing but the part which is lying in the wall of the uterus, which is measuring around 1 centimeters. It is piercing the uterine wall. Okay, it's very narrow, so it will not have any peritoneal covering. Okay, so it will not even have, generally we will have inner circular and outer longitudinal muscles, no, for ureter, for any hollow organ. So here we do not have longitudinal muscles. Now this next part is isthmus. Isthmus length is 3 centimeters. It is rounded as you can see here, and it is like a cord. Okay, musculature is thick than the lumen. Lumen will be very narrow. Then next part is ampulla, which is 5 centimeters long. It is widest and largest part of the tube. It is thin walled. This was isthmus was thick part, no? Lumen was very narrow, whereas ampulla is thin walled and it is tortuous, curved. And we know ampulla is the site of fertilization. Sperms are traveling through the vagina into the uterine cavity, and through this opening of the uterine opening, you will see it will enter into the lumen of the uterine tube, and in the ampulla, you will see from the ovary, the ovum is entering through this abdominal ostium and it will be moving to ampulla. So in the ampulla, you will see the sperm is also coming and the ovum is also coming, and we see it is the place where fertilization is taking place. This is the infundibulum part. How much is this? 1 centimeter. So it looks like a funnel, isn't it? So which is projecting beyond the broad ligament. It is lying over the ovary. Okay. Then, so the circumference of this infundibulum, you have finger-like projections which are nothing but fimbria. Okay. Now one fimbria will be very big and it will be completely covering the ovary. When you just look into the cadaver also, that will be quite big and it will be holding the ovary. That is the biggest of all fimbria is actually called as ovarian fimbria. One fimbria which is longer and more deeply grooved. That means that is the fimbria which is usually having a big hole, ostia, through which you will see the ovum will be directly caught through this ovarian fimbria. That means it is acting as a sensor to time the release of ovum. Okay, that means it is so much directly in contact that as soon as the ovum is released from the surface of ovary, it will catch and it will allow that ovum to enter into the ampulla. That is the purpose of ovarian fimbria. Okay. Then, so what is overall, what are the functions of this fallopian tube? It is picking up the ovum at the time of ovulation through its fimbria. It is transporting the ovum. When you see the cut section of the fallopian tube in histology, it is all like the lining epithelium will be ciliated columnar epithelium. So many cilia will be there inside the lumen, which will allow the peristaltic movements and ciliary movements will help to propel the ovum towards the sperm, okay, which facilitates the fertilization. Okay, the tube, the fallopian tube also produces certain secretions which are helping in penetration of sperm into the ovum. Okay, that's what is called as capacitation. Okay, that is. Now coming to the blood supply, what are the blood vessels we have? Same like what you have seen for ovary. For uterus, for ovary, and also for fallopian tube, same arteries you remember. Uterine artery and ovarian artery. Okay. So venous drainage, right fallopian tube will drain into right ovarian vein, left fallopian tube, venous blood will go to left ovarian vein. And we know right ovarian vein is draining into inferior vena cava, left ovarian vein is draining into left renal vein, like we have seen just now in the ovary. So lymphatic drainage of the fallopian tube, it goes to pre and para aortic group. Okay. So intramural means that muscle part of the fallopian tube, it's going into this superficial inguinal group of lymph nodes. Okay. Nerve supply, sympathetic is T10 to L2. They actually form ovarian and superior hypogastric plexuses. Okay, parasympathetic is lateral part is receiving its nerve supply from vagus, medial part is receiving from pelvic splanchnic nerves. Overall, it is 10 centimeters, no? That is, lateral part is little higher up, that's why it is able to receive the nerve supply from vagus. Okay. Now coming to the applied aspects of fallopian tube. So if there is any infection in the fallopian tube, you call this condition as salpingitis. You remember I told you fold of peritoneum which is covering the fallopian tube is called as mesosalpinx. Salpinx is a word which is generally used to represent a tube. Okay. An infection here you call it as salpingitis. Okay. And it's very dangerous because suppose following salpingitis, if this narrow lumen, if it is blocked, so sperms cannot travel into the ampulla part of the fallopian tube. Their sperms will come at the maximum to some part and they generally die within 24 hours. Okay. So which may lead to the infertility. So this is the commonest cause of this secondary sterility in female. Okay, the tubal blockage. It may be due to salpingitis or any sort of tubal infection, which has basically started from vagina or uterus. If it is spreading to fallopian tube, then it may lead to this condition. Then generally, the gynecologist and obstetrician, generally when the lady is coming for infertility, we generally ask them to take certain tests. Okay, so we take a test to check the patency, if the lumen of this fallopian tube is open or not. Is there any adhesion? Is it blocked? Okay, to check that, one test is done which is called as insufflation test, to check the patency of tubal blockage. Okay, which is also called as Rubin's test. That means we are pushing the air through the uterus, and you should see, suppose if you are pushing the air through the uterine cavity, see vagina, uterine cavity, and then into the fallopian tube. So we know like fimbria are the open structures, right? Okay. That means the hissing sound should come because the air should leak into the peritoneal cavity. If there is no blockage, then only we will get this sound. Otherwise, we won't. Okay. So that is insufflation test or Rubin's test. Okay. Air is pushed into the uterus. Okay. We can listen to this bubbling sound with the help of stethoscope over the iliac fossa. Okay. So that is patency. Hysterosalpingography. It's a technique. Generally, I told you barium mean. We also discussed about kidney ureter bladder, where we had retrograde urethrogram. So many different techniques where I told you we can inject radioactive dyes and we can take the x-rays, we can take the scans, and we will just check if there is any blockage. So here also in hysterosalpingogram, what are you finding? This is the uterus and this is fallopian tube, isn't it? And here behind you are finding the ovaries. That means it's a radiological technique where you are just injecting some radio opaque substance like lipiodol. Okay, it is injected through the uterus by a suitable cannula. Then we can get the outline of uterine cavity. We can also check if there is any blockage. The fallopian tubes are very, very important, no? So if the tubes are open, you will see the dye will spill into the peritoneal cavity. The dye should go, then only you can come to a conclusion like the tubes are patent, there is no blockage. Okay. Basically, the pregnancy we see it is implantation is taking place inside the uterine cavity. But suppose if implantation is taking place in any other place, generally you call it as ectopic pregnancy. And the commonest place where you see, that means we know fertilization is taking place in the ampulla. Suppose if the fertilized ovum is not coming into the uterine cavity, if it is remaining there only, then you call it as tubal pregnancy, tubal gestation. Okay. So, but do you think the fallopian tubes can withstand the pregnancy for 9 months? Highly impossible. As the embryo keeps growing, the fallopian tubes will rupture. Okay, very dangerous condition it is. Okay, so that is associated with intraperitoneal hemorrhage. Suppose if these tubes are rupturing, you will see there will be bleeding in the peritoneal cavity. Okay, because as the conceptors, that means the products of conception are growing, it will rupture the tubal rupture. Okay, so there is a family planning technique to prevent the pregnancy. So permanent method of sterilization, one is the tubectomy, where bilaterally both the sides the fallopian tubes are cut and ligated separately. Because if it one side only, if you do, the other tube will be patent, and of course it gets a chance to pass the sperm and over. Usually the ovaries will be releasing ovum alternately. Suppose in the month of June right ovary is releasing, in the month of July left ovary will be releasing the ovum. So alternately you will see in each cycle ovulation, you will see the ovary will be releasing the ovum. So we should be careful to do the tubectomy both the sides. So before we go with the thank you slide, I will also talk about certain clinical aspects which we could not finish. So we were discussing about PCODs, right? Polycystic ovarian disease. So that means multiple cysts are there inside the ovaries. So here in this case, generally ovarian drilling is done. You can see here. Okay. So we also have one infertility specialist, like Imad's mother is infertility specialist. We can ask her to take one lecture for us. It's really useful. At the end, we will ask Meghana's father also. We are going to end very fast. Okay. So here you will see in ovarian drilling, what we do, see these cysts are ruptured. Most of the times in infertility cases, you will see the mother will be always blessed with twins, triplets, quadruplets. Why is it so? Because in PCOD, so many Graafian follicles are already entrapped. And with the help of these drilling techniques, we also have certain drugs which will rupture this Graafian follicle. Okay. So when this Graafian follicle, so many Graafian follicles are there and so many ova will be released into the peritoneal cavity. And we know sperms are deposited in millions in vagina. We don't have only one sperm, isn't it? We have millions of sperms deposited in vagina, and so many sperms will be transferred towards the ampulla. Okay, so in such case, if the ova are available, so as many ova are available, so many ova will be fertilized. So that will be leading to multiple pregnancy. Okay, so that is the ovarian cyst.
Ma'am, what is drilling, ma'am?
Drilling
Ovarian
is
drilling, what do they do?
drilling is a technique through a probe, through a needle-like structure. Exactly, the cyst is incised.
Oh, okay.
Incision of cyst.
Puncturing it. Huh?
Puncturing.
Okay.
Puncturing is nothing but drilling. Okay.
Okay.
So there are certain drugs also like methotrexate. So if they are taken, that is, the drug also will cause the rupture of all these cysts, and the couple will be very happy to have, of course, more than one baby at a time. Okay,
Ma'am,
because
one
they'll
doubt,
be,
ma'am.
yeah.
This puncturing thing is a must if you have PCOD.
See, but actually PCODs are occurring nowadays because of many reasons like obesity, no physical activity and all. So basically the first thing what the infertility specialists or gynecologists they tell us is to exercise and reduce weight. Okay.
Mm.
So with the help of proper exercise, yoga, reduction of weight, automatically within 6 months, the cycles will resume. That means that lady will get her normal menstrual cycle. Okay. So if she is getting her normal menstrual cycles, that means her ovulation is taking care, like it's occurring normally. Basically, the normal menstrual cycle's length is 28 days, but it may range from 26 days to 40 days, which is also normal. So
Hmm.
in case of 28 days cycle, 14th day is the day of ovulation. Suppose if her
Hmm.
cycles are becoming normal, every month she is getting her menstrual cycle, so there is no need to go for any of these techniques. Okay, but because
Hmm.
nowadays, because of our dietary habits and so many, we don't know what is going wrong, but we are finding many infertility cases are coming up. Okay,
Hmm.
so we should ask them to do proper exercise, good healthy diet, okay,
Hmm.
and reducing obesity. All these factors will help
Hmm.
to overcome
Hmm.
infertility naturally. Still it
Hmm.
is not cured, then of course they have to take some help. Okay, Vita?
Okay. Right.
If there is any cancer in the ovary, you call it as ovarian carcinoma. Okay, so ovarian carcinoma, the first common killer I told you yesterday, cervical cancer, then breast cancer, then so it is 15% of all cancers what we see in 20% of gynecological cancers. Okay.
Hmm.
So there is a tumor which is called as Krukenberg's tumor, which is basically a tumor of mammary gland, but the cancer cells are spreading through lymphatic route. Okay, through lymphatic channel, the cells are spreading, and all cancer cells are coming and accumulating over the ovary. Okay, and this tumor is actually called as Krukenberg's tumor. Metastasis means spread of tumor. Okay, so this is one embryological tumor, beta, like teratoma. So this you will study much in detail when you do pathology. So here, when you see the cut section of ovary, it will show like pluripotent cells, totipotent cells, which can transform into any form of tissue. So in this case, you will see hair will be there, nail will be there, tooth will be there, thyroid tissue may be there. So much of different types of tissues may be seen inside the ovary. Okay, so this condition is teratoma. Okay, so inflammation of ovary generally. So I told you in the floor we have obturator nerve. So if this nerve is getting irritated, generally there may be pain along the distribution of this obturator nerve. If you remember, obturator nerve is the nerve of medial compartment of the thigh, isn't it? Where we have adductor longus, adductor brevis, and adductor magnus muscles. No. So because of the irritation of obturator nerve, you will see the lady will come to us with the persistent pain on the inner side of the thigh, which is going almost up to the knee. Okay, beta. So that's it.